What's up guys, it's Naf here. So after finishing up with God Wars Dungeon 2, I wasn't too sure what boss I wanted to camp next, so I decided I would do something a little different and get the luck of the Dwarves ring. Now this is the tier 4 luck ring that surpasses the tier 3 luck ring, which is the Ring of Fortune, which gives increased drop chances to all of the bosses the Ring of Fortune usually would, and also the remaining high tier ones, including bosses such as Araxi, Beastmaster Durzag, and Nex Angel of Death. So to make this ring as an Ironman, it does require 107 Invention, 91 Crafting, 87 Magic, an Onyx, 50 Fortune and Components, 50 Refined Components, and 10 Precious Components. So most of those things weren't an issue for me, having all the stats required and also an Onyx, so getting the components was the only thing I needed to do. Now, precious and refined components are relatively easy to get, but fortunate components only come from specific clue scroll items, which mainly consists of some of the rare loot from easy, medium, and rare clues, and the majority of rare items you get from elite clues. For an example, the rare Guthix, Zamarok, and Saradomin rune plate armors you can get from hard clues don't in fact give fortunate components despite being rare loot, whilst the Armadil, Bandos, and Ancient plate bodies, which are gotten from elite clues, in fact do give fortunate components. It's rather confusing, but nonetheless simply makes fortunate components even more of a task to acquire. Another thing of note is the items which do give fortune components will only give them one at a time, meaning as an Iron Man you will need to acquire 50 of these items from clue scrolls to dismantle. I personally haven't gotten a single fortunate component through the scavenger perk, which I used frequently when leveling Invention. Now going into this, I was never a fan of clue scrolls, and on this Iron Man I had a total of 0 hard and 0 elite clues completed, and only did a handful of hard clues on my main many years ago, as I honestly never liked doing them. So to effectively grind this out, I did have to choose a method of farming clue scrolls. Now there was a variety of options I had available, such as killing hellhounds or abyssal demons, but due to having a lot of combat experience already, I decided to try kill two birds with one stone and try get my clue scrolls through thieving. Now at this time I was 80 thieving and my goal was to get at least 90 thieving, pickpocket dwarf traders, and once I hit 93 thieving or so, start pickpocketing elves in Prifddinas. So before I got into thieving, I thought it would be a good idea to finally get the Ardougne Cloak, with the Ardougne Cloak 3 entire providing an increased success chance when pickpocketing and stealing from chests. So for this, I luckily had every stat required for every task ranging from easy through to elite, but unfortunately I'm really slacking when it comes to questing, and there were a variety of them that I needed to do before I could get all the tasks complete. So in total I did have to complete 7 quests, which is a lot for me, and 2 of those were Monkey Madness and Back to My Roots, so it was actually good to get some of these bigger quests out of the way, and with that done, I was able to complete all of the tasks bar one, being the task to grow and kill a Jade Vine after completing the Back to My Roots quest, due to having to wait quite some time for it to actually fully grow. So in the process of waiting for that, I began leveling thieving. Now I had a few options, with the highest experience per hour one appearing to be pickpocketing monkey knife fighters. Now I personally hate the click intensity of thieving and wanted an alternative method where I wouldn't have any issues grinding all day without losing my mind, so the method I actually went for was looting Dorgish Khan rich chests. Now this was something I've never actually tried before, and in fact appeared to only be marginally slower than pickpocketing monkey knife fighters. So this method was actually really good for me, as it wasn't click intensive, and literally half the time you were simply waiting for your character to load in when you were world hopping, as it simply involved pickpocketing 2 chests and hopping worlds every 20 seconds or so. Now the loot itself wasn't great, but I decided to keep it all for the sake of dismantling later and being too lazy to drop it, as running to the bank took no more than half a minute, so grinding out 90 thieving from this point was relatively easy, getting roughly 100 to 200k experience per hour, while still being pretty AFK. Although you couldn't actually leave your computer, it was pretty easy to tab off and do something else, whilst waiting for your character to hop worlds, or whilst waiting for the pickpocket animation when looting the chests, which was actually pretty slow as well. Along with that, my Jade Vine did finally manage to grow and I was able to kill it, giving me all the tasks completed and the Ardougne Cloak 4, which will provide the most benefit when I actually start pickpocketing. So now that I was 90 thieving, I did move on to Dwarf Traders where I could actually finally start getting clue scrolls. And despite not having completed the Light Within quest or the Crystal Mask spell, it wasn't too bad, although if I did intend on staying here all the way to 99 thieving and beyond, I definitely would have gone and completed that quest, as I was getting caught pretty frequently. But regardless, I did start getting hard clues relatively consistently, usually every 30 minutes on average, and also completing them every time I got one. And in the process, I did slowly manage to grind out 93 thieving. So at this point, I decided it would be a good time to start pickpocketing the elves at Prifddinas, as I would be able to maintain a boosted thieving level of 95 through the Magpie Familiar, since gold rings were the secondary, which definitely aren't hard to come by. Now, before starting Prif pickpocketing, I did want to use all my Triskelion keys. These are gotten as drops from a variety of means, such as rare drops from bosses and monsters, pickpocketing, and even loot chests such as ones seen at Barrows and QBD. Now these keys give a variety of loot, which honestly doesn't reflect how rare the key pieces are themselves, but they do have a 100% chance of giving an elite clue scroll. So that meant I was able to hand them in individually, getting an elite clue each time, and being able to complete that before repeating the process until I had used all those keys. So with that out of the way, I did make my way to Prifddinas, where thankfully I never ran into the issue of being caught and locked out by all of the factions I could pickpocket. Now, unlike Dwarf Traders, the elves gave both hard and elite clues, which I would do depending on whichever I got first. Now, in my experience, they did seem to give hard clues a little bit more consistently, but I personally didn't mind either way, as in my experience, elite clues were a little more consistent with giving items that gave fortune and components, whilst hard clues were naturally faster, so I could overall complete more clues. So as I said previously, going into this I was very inexperienced with clues, and early on the puzzles such as Celtic Knots, puzzle boxes, and scans were extremely painful for me and slow, but honestly, as I went on, I actually started getting into the swing of them and even began to enjoy them. Now, in saying that, I never expected it to be so much work, and going into it, I was expecting this whole process to take me no more than a few days, but in fact, from the day I started questing at 80 thieving until the time I had enough items for 50 fortune components being today took me a total of around 10 days or so. So for any other Ironmen out there who intend on getting a luck of the Dwarves, who maybe avoid clues like myself, definitely consider doing it slowly over time as you naturally acquire clues through bossing and Slayer and so on, rather than expecting it to be a grind you can do over a weekend. But regardless, once I was at Prifddinas, the thieving side of things was pretty AFK, and by the end I did even manage to hit 99 thieving, and make around 10 million GP in gold alone, along with all the other random items which the elves do give. Now in terms of the general clue scroll loot, I did complete a total of 81 hard clues and 35 elite clues, so for anyone interested in the individual loot from every single clue, I will show those clips at the end of the video, but given that's a considerable amount of time, which I didn't want to have to ramble for, I will just highlight one very rare item I got. That's right, I did manage to get a Barrows die from a hard clue which does have a grand exchange value of a little over 300 million GP. So as you could imagine, this was really exciting and is probably the rarest loot I've gotten on my Ironman to date. But regardless, a little after 99 thieving, I did finally manage to have enough items for 50 fortune and components, only keeping a few such as the Pirate Hat, Black Cavalier, Guthix Bow and Amulet of Glory Tea, partially due to their rarity for when the Clue Scroll Collection tab is introduced, and partially for the looks, and also a number of rare items from the hard clues which don't actually give fortune and components, mainly being the Saradomin, Samrock and Guthix rune armors. And with the 50 fortune components out of the way, I now needed to get 50 refined components. Now I wasn't too sure how junk refiners worked, so I did manage to make way more than I needed, but after using 3 junk refiners I did have what I needed, which meant I was able to make the Luck of the Dwarves ring. So there you have it. After many hours of thieving and completing clue scrolls, I do have the Luck of the Dwarves ring, which hopefully can help me at Araxi in finally getting a T90 weapon, and also being a nice stat upgrade over the Ring of Fortune. Now, one small thing I wanted to do as well, which I've been meaning to do for some time, is to spend my Reaper points on an incomplete Hydrix. So this gem, when combined with an Onyx, can make a variety of high tier jewelry, including the Death Touch bracelet, Ring of Death, Amulet of Souls, and Reaper necklace. Now, I knew I wanted a neck, but the decision between which one was rather difficult, and after reading up on both of them and the benefits they provided, I did actually go with the Amulet of Souls. Now, I certainly still want a Reaper necklace, but as it stands, I don't do any high tier bossing outside of Araxi, and in general, I prefer a more defensive playstyle rather than an offensive one. But that's pretty much it for this one. I do apologise for the lengthy gap in videos. I really didn't expect this process to take so long when going into it, and I do plan on my next video being a bossing loot video, which definitely won't take this long. So now I will leave you with all of the clue scrolls I did complete for those who actually want to see that, and for those Ironmen who have gotten a luck of the Dwarves themselves, I'm really interested in how you went about it, so let me know in the comments if you do want to share. But that's it for me. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Standing in a glass bowl at the end of a black hole, cold, lost and upside down. Faces swirling past me, all my memories rolling vastly, cold, lost beneath the ground. All done by my own hand, I allow my feelings to become sand. Oh, if you're gonna cut me down, do it quickly now, now. You can cut me down, but I won't stay for long. I'll grow back again, oh yeah, my roots are strong. This is not forever. Folks changing like the weather. Cold, wet, and all around. Toxic people being severed, like leaves falling in September.